I'm Kevin O'Hara for Alcohol Mastery, and this video is one of the first for excuses, and it's drinking. I drink alcohol because it's part of my culture. Now, I'm part Irish, part English. I lived sort of half my life in each one of the countries. And it was one of my favourite excuses when throughout all the years of drinking, you know, that it was part of my culture, it was who I am, and you know, everyone did it, and this is just what we are, how we enjoy ourselves, you know. This is, when I was in Ireland, it was part of my Irishness, and when I was in England, it was part of my Englishness, you know. So, no, I understand where people are coming from with this one. Like I say, I've done it all my drinking life. When I was living in the west of Ireland, for instance, we lived in a small village, fairly big village in comparison to some, but it was about 2,000 people. And in that village, there was 24 pubs. You know, and it's a lot for a small village, but that's repeated throughout Ireland. I don't think it's so bad in England, maybe in some places. But it is the culture, you know, the culture, the community revolves around the pub. It's where many people meet. It's normally the centre of town and all that kind of stuff. You know, it just plays a big part in the day-to-day lives of a lot of people. You know, when you look at English soap operas, there's a pub at the centre of it all. You know, it's where everyone meets up, and it's where everyone congregates, and where a lot of action takes place. The fact is that if you were born into a Western country, that you were sort of inculcated into this drinking society from an early age. You know, it depends which country you were born in, depends what type of thinking you had about alcohol. I mean, for instance, in Spain, there's sort of a drinking culture that's embedded in the young people, in the entire culture from the time they were young, that it's drinking in moderation. They do drink a lot over here. It's you know, it's not that they don't drink much alcohol. They do, but they tend to drink it more with food. Whereas in the Irish and English culture, and I think in a lot of American culture, it's you go out and you drink to get drunk. That there is, you know, there's bars where it just involves drinking. You know, there is no food. It took a long time before there was any sight of food in pubs. I mean, the only thing that you could get in a pub when I was growing up, the only type of food was a packet of crisps, potato chips, or a packet of peanuts or something like that. But you wouldn't see sandwiches or hot meals or anything like that. So, you know, the main objective of people to go into the pubs was to drink. I mean, when I was growing up in Dublin, when I first started drinking, there were still pubs there that didn't allow women in, you know. And that's not that long ago. I'm not that old, you know. You're sort of stuck with the culture that you were born into to a certain degree. You know, they say that it's not the man that makes the culture, it's the culture that makes the man. And wherever you travel, you tend to take the culture with you. I mean, the Irish and the English, regardless of where they are, tend to be a lot more heavier drinkers than, say, the Spanish or the Italians. Those communities worldwide have the same sort of drinking cultures. You know, the Spanish and the Italians have the moderation, and the Irish and the English tend to have those the drink to get drunk attitude. It might change after 2 or 3 generations. You know, people might start assimilating with the culture where they live. You know, so if people came to Spain, for instance, 2 or 3 generations ago from Ireland, you know, they might now, the grandchildren might be assimilating into the way that the Spanish are drinking. But when I moved here first, 3 years ago, I didn't move here with any intention of quitting drinking. I moved here because it was going to be cheaper to drink here like an Irishman than it was to drink at home like an Irishman. And I had no intentions of stopping drinking like an Irishman. Drinking that way and the cultural messages that cause us to think in that way don't happen overnight. It's not something that just we wake up one morning and it's like, oh well, that's how I'm going to drink. I mean, those things are embedded into our psyche from the moment that we're born. It's a very slow process. Our parents do do a job, and when there's alcohol hanging around the house, how they drink, how their friends drink, how when you leave home and you go out into the big wide world the first time, how you see other people drinking, that's all part of the brainwashing. I think most of the modern day brainwashing comes from big alcohol, and the big problem is that we believe it. We believe all the bullshit that they're churning out. Every time they put an advert out that links alcohol to sport or links alcohol to really having fun, or the opposite way around, most people believe that they can't have fun, they can't go to a party, they can't celebrate without having some form of alcohol. It's quite sad. When I was young, when I first started drinking, we're all naive then. I believed it was just a human thing to drink. You don't look into it, you don't question any of that stuff. Nobody tells you how long the human race have been drinking or why we drink or any of that. I used to just assimilate it into, this is being Irish, this is what we Irish people do. We go out and we get drunk and have the crack and all that kind of stuff. But when I look back at it now, I know that it's all cherry picking. You're sort of choosing the things from your life that you like, and you're assimilating those into your personality. Those parts of the culture that you want to assimilate, and those parts of your culture that you don't like, you sort of ignore. So, drinking was part of the culture that I wanted, and Roman Catholicism was part of the culture that I didn't want. So I did one and avoided the other. So really, it's the biggest excuse in the book. It's the biggest, widest thing. Well, I'm part of this culture that drinks, and we really believe that it's true, and not because it's got any truth in it whatsoever. We believe it's true because we want to believe it's true. It's as simple as that. We give it form, we give it the legs that it needs, and we help it along. We have this view that drinking is a normal part of society, and so therefore it is. If we think it's normal, that's what makes something normal, is part of the norm. One of the problems really is that we just don't question any of it. We don't say, well, why is that the way it is? Why do we use alcohol? Why are so many people using alcohol? Why are so many people having problems with alcohol? One of the reasons is we don't question the fact of why alcohol is not considered to be a drug. The alcohol industry are fighting tooth and nail to stop it being reclassified as a drug in all Western countries. And if it's not a drug, then it can't cause addiction. It can't cause it. It's the responsibility of the individual. It all boils down to, well, there's something wrong with you. When we do look at things like that, we tend to sort of say, well, if there's a problem, it's down to the government to do something. Why aren't the government solving this problem? If an individual is getting into trouble, we don't look at it like, well, it's part of the problem. It's the way that we abuse alcohol in our societies, and that we ignore the fact that it's a drug. We blame the individual and say, well, there's something personally wrong with you. Must be your genes. You've got an alcoholic's personality. You're you're just a bad fucker, so, we don't question these assumptions, because holding on to these assumptions allows us to carry on drinking guilt-free, almost guilt-free. It allows us to hide our heads underneath the sand about the real issue, that it is a drug and that we are drug users, that society is a bunch of drug users, that we try to pretend that that drinking is as much a part of who we are as the noses on our faces. We can't change the culture, not overnight anyway. It's going to take a long time before the culture is changed, and it will change over time, just exactly the way cigarettes, nicotine have now been changed in the culture. But we can change the way that we perceive it, we can change the way that we deal with, personally, with the culture, so that we're not sucked into the bullshit. If you want to drink, drink. I've got nothing against it. If you don't want to drink, or if I don't want to drink, then don't tell me that there's something wrong with me for not wanting to drink. If I don't want to start drinking, or if a young girl doesn't want to start drinking, then don't say that there's something physically wrong with her or mentally wrong with her, that she's some kind of a weirdo or a dropout, or there's nothing wrong with her. It's the only dangerous drug that you can stop using, and society considers that you've got the problem. Can you even think about that? You stop using heroin and people will say to you, well, good for you, you did well there. Stop using alcohol and they go, oh Jesus, are you an alcoholic? Or you can't handle drinking, They wouldn't say that to you about alcohol, about heroin or cocaine or even marijuana. There's many, many people who don't drink in our culture. There's many people who have never even started drinking in our culture. Just because I don't know them or you don't know them, it doesn't mean that they're not there. It's just drinkers mix in different circles to people who don't drink. Using alcohol and using the excuse that it's part of our culture is just an easy way out for us. It's an easy way to say, well, it's just part of who I am. It's just a fact of life that I'm Irish, and that's what the Irish people do, is they drink. Or I'm English, and that's what the English people do, we drink. Or this is what we do to enjoy ourselves, and we do this and we do that. It's just not taking personal responsibility for things. It's like I say, it's what I used to do, it's what I used to believe, and I used to believe it like it was the gospel truth, that nobody could turn me away from that truth no matter what they said, that it was just something that I was entitled to. Being an Irishman I was entitled to drink my Guinness and go in and sit in a bar and buy my Guinness. I was over 18 and nobody was going to stop me from doing it, Complete bullshit, horseshit. Believe in yourself. Believe in your own ability, your own individual ability to live a good life without alcohol. You don't need alcohol to enjoy yourself. You don't need it to celebrate. Once you've stopped drinking for a while, you'll understand this, that it ruins celebrations. You ruin celebrations when you get drunk, and people. I'm having conversations with my family now, and they go, Jesus, when you were drinking, there was times when you used to come, and you'd be drunk before we even started, and there'd be kids around, and I just feel ashamed of what I did. No blame, no looking back, no recriminations. It's what it is, and people see it now as I'm a different person, and I'm a much better person, according to other people. I think, according to myself, I just love my life now. I couldn't go back to that drinking again. If you paid me £1 million, I wouldn't go back to it. It's just, it's not worth it. It is all about changing your perceptions. It's changing the way you think about alcohol, that there are plenty of people out there who don't drink and who are not freaks and are not weirdos, that they do enjoy themselves and probably enjoy themselves a lot better than you ever will on alcohol. You know, they see a lot more going on around them, they remember a lot more. You know, and you can, it's not impossible to go from being a heavy drinker to a non-drinker. It's just it's getting into the right mindset, into the right frame of mind to do it. You know, along with the people that have never touched a drop of alcohol, there's millions of people who used to drink who now don't drink. Millions of people who started drinking and were heavy drinkers and stopped drinking and managed to stop it. There's people right now at this moment who are going through the process of stopping drinking, of getting drinking out of their lives. You know, the fundamental thing is to have the mindset that every mouthful of alcohol that you take into your system, into your body, is 100% your responsibility. Period. As long as you have that mindset, there are no excuses. So that was, I drink alcohol because it was part of my culture. Now think about yourself, what ways have you, or what excuses have you made about alcohol in your culture in the past? How are you still using those excuses in your present? You know, how many people do you know who have never drank? You know, start asking around, because you'll be surprised by the people that are around you that just don't drink. You'll be surprised at other people's notions of drinking and what they think of drinking and how much they drink. You know, if you take off the blinders and you start to really look at your own culture, you'll realize that, you know, it's not that black and white, that it's not really a drinking culture. It's just the way that you've cherry-picked the notion so that it seems to be that it's part of your culture. If you have any questions at all, give us a shout. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter or the forum, then come on over to the website and sign up. It's easy, it's free. The more the merrier. Until next time, I'm Kevin O'Hara for Alcohol Mastery. Onwards and upwards.